You've got an idea for a tool, maybe a client portal, a simple CRM, a dashboard that tracks the 3 metrics your boss actually cares about. You called a developer, they quoted you $15,000, 8 weeks minimum, for something you sketched on a napkin in 20 minutes. Then you heard about something called vibe coding, AI tools that let you describe what you want in plain English and supposedly get working software. I spent 2 weeks building the same application across 3 different AI platforms. Same specifications. Same starting point. Wildly different results. One produced something I could actually use. One wasted $40 in credits on debugging loops, and one deleted a column of customer data without telling me. So here's the question nobody's answering honestly. Can a non-technical person actually build real software with these tools? Let's find out. First, let's clarify what we're talking about. Vibe coding is different from traditional no-code tools like Lovable or Webflow. Those older tools still require you to learn visual programming interfaces. Drag and drop, sure, but you're still learning a system. Vibe coding is simpler, at least in theory. You describe what you want in conversational English. The AI writes the code, you click deploy. The appeal is obvious. No programming bootcamp, no visual logic puzzles. Just tell the computer what you need like you're talking to an assistant. A very literal assistant, admittedly, one that needs specific instructions, but still, the promise is transformational for people who have ideas but not coding skills. The market leader right now is a tool called Lovable. They hit a $6.6 billion valuation this year. Billion with a B. That valuation tells you how much money is betting this actually works. Investors don't throw billions at tools that don't deliver something real. The competitors include Bolt, Replit Agent, and a few others. They all make similar promises. But the execution differs substantially. What they all share is this. You're not learning to code. You're learning to prompt. And prompting, well, turns out to be its own skill. So I ran an experiment. I picked a use case that non-technical founders commonly need. A simple client portal with login, a dashboard, and basic data entry. Nothing fancy. The kind of thing you'd currently build in a spreadsheet and hate yourself for. I gave identical requirements to each platform. Here's what happened with Lovable. Within 90 minutes of my first login zero prior experience, I had a functional prototype. Login worked. Dashboard displayed data. Forms submitted correctly. The whole thing. 90 minutes. Not 90 days. Not $9,000. 90 minutes and a free account. The interface looked professional enough to show a client without embarrassment. One review documented this exact scenario. A non-technical product manager, no coding background whatsoever, built a functional prototype in under 2 hours. That's not marketing hype. That's independent testing with documented methodology. The tool genuinely works for its intended use case. Here's the part that surprised me. The code Lovable produces isn't throwaway demo code. It exports production-grade React. Cleaner than many junior developers produce, according to technical reviewers who examined the output. That matters more than you might think. Why does code quality matter if you're not a coder? Because if your prototype works, you can export it to GitHub and hand it to a real developer. That developer will inherit clean code instead of starting from scratch. You're not trapped in a proprietary system. You have an exit path. Let's talk pricing. Lovable offers a free tier with 5 credits per day. Pro is $25 monthly for 100 credits. Business tier is $50 for more credits and features. Sounds reasonable until you understand how credits actually work. Every prompt uses credits. Every iteration. Every mistake. And here's the problem that nobody warns you about. Debugging loops. When something doesn't work, and something always doesn't work, you enter a back and forth with the AI. Fix this. Now that broke something else. Fix that. Each message costs credits. 10 iterations on a stubborn bug can eat through a week of your allocation before you know what happened. One reviewer put it bluntly, the credit system creates unpredictable consumption. Debugging loops can drain monthly allocations without warning. And there's no pay-as-you-go safety net. Once your credits are gone, you wait until next month or upgrade your plan immediately. Consider budgeting accordingly. If you're serious about building something real, you might want to start with the $50 business tier from day one. The free and pro tiers tend to run out mid-project when debugging gets intense. It's cheaper to plan for enough credits than to restart halfway through. Now let's talk about what Lovable is actually good at. Internal tools. Dashboards. Simple CRMs. landing pages with forms, MVPs for validation. These are the sweet spots. Tools that would cost thousands to build custom but don't need to scale to millions of users. Internal operations stuff, client-facing portals, prototype demos for investor meetings. Things where good enough is actually good enough. What doesn't work as well? Complex applications with user authentication beyond basic login, payment processing, real-time collaborative features, multi-tenant architectures where different companies need isolated data, anything requiring compliance certifications, the serious enterprise stuff. These aren't impossible, but they drain credits rapidly and often require developer intervention anyway. You're back to paying an expert. Except now you've also spent time and credits learning that lesson. Better to know the boundaries before you start than to discover them mid-project. What about the alternatives? Both positions itself similarly, but with a different underlying model. Replit Agent focuses on more technical users. In my testing, Lovable produced the cleanest output for non-technical users. Bolt was faster on some tasks but required more specific prompting. More technical prompting means understanding what terms like component and state management mean. That defeats the purpose for true non-coders. The consensus among independent reviewers is clear. Lovable is currently the most capable AI app builder for non-technical users in 2026. Nothing else combines full-stack generation with clean code output and one-click deployment this effectively. That's the current state of the market. But, and this is important, most capable doesn't mean good enough for everything. These tools have very specific use cases where they shine. Think of them as high-powered prototyping tools. They're not replacing software engineers. They're letting non-engineers validate ideas first. That's genuinely valuable. A prototype that proves your concept works or doesn't can save tens of thousands before you commit to development. The critics aren't wrong, by the way. You probably will need a developer eventually. Complex features, security audits, scaling, those require expertise. But that's not a criticism of the tools. That's understanding where they fit. There's a valuable step between napkin sketch and production software. The debate in tech circles centers on whether these tools create real software or just demos. My take? It depends entirely on what you're building. An internal dashboard for your 10-person team? Vibe coding might give you everything you need. A healthcare app handling patient data? Please hire actual engineers. Consider the stakes before starting. Low-stakes internal tools where mistakes are annoying but not catastrophic? Great candidates for vibe coding. High-stakes applications where errors cause real harm, financial systems, medical data, anything with compliance requirements, those aren't appropriate for these tools. Here's your homework this week. Sign up for Lovable's free tier. Describe the simplest version of something you wanted to build. Don't try to create your dream app. Just one feature. A form that collects data. A dashboard that displays 3 numbers. Something testable in one session. See what it produces. Click through every function. Test it like a user would. You might be impressed. You might hit a wall immediately. Either way, you'll know if this tool fits your specific needs. That's information worth having before you spend any money. And if it works, great, iterate on it. Push it further. See where the boundaries actually are for your use case specifically. If it doesn't work, you've invested one evening and $0. That's better market research than most business plans include. One more thing that surprised me. If your Lovable prototype actually works well, you can export the code and hand it to a developer. That developer inherits clean React code instead of starting from scratch. You've paid maybe $50 in credits instead of $5,000 in discovery. That's the real value proposition. Not replacing developers forever, but validating your idea cheaply before you need expensive development. The bottom line on vibe coding tools in 2026, they're real. They work within specific boundaries. Those boundaries are narrower than marketing suggests. But they're also wider than the skeptics claim. For the right use cases, these tools represent a genuine capability that didn't exist 2 years ago. For non-developers needing custom applications who can't justify developer costs for internal tools, this represents genuine value, real value, not hype. Just go in with realistic expectations. Know what these tools can and can't do. Start simple. Budget for the credits you'll actually need. The $15,000 developer quote hasn't disappeared. But for a lot of use cases, more than I expected, there's now a $50 alternative worth trying. If this kind of honest tech assessment is useful to you, consider hitting subscribe. We test these tools so you don't waste money on hype. New episodes weekly. That's it for today. Vibe coding isn't magic, and it isn't a scam. It's a genuinely useful middle ground that exists now. Build something small this week. See what happens. And remember, the goal isn't to replace developers. It's to validate your ideas before you need them.